Hello Bookish friends, welcome to my January wrap-up part 2. In this video, I will talk about the 6 books that I finished and 1 book that I DNF'd in the second half of January. Like I did in my previous videos, I will insert the clips that I've recorded just after I finish those works. Today is the 17th of January and I finished another book for Epistolary January, which was a middle grade book, Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly, Cleary. This book consists of letters written by a 6th grade boy, Lee Butts, and he writes to his favorite author, Boyd Henshaw. And we gradually learn from his letters. Lee is new in town. Lee's parents are separated. And Lee moves to a new town with his mother. We also learn how he struggles to make friends and his constant anger towards both of his parents, but especially his father, because he thinks that his father abandoned him. The previous book that I read for Epistolary January was The Forgotten Letters of Esther Durant by Kate Nunn. A very minor part of that book was actually epistolary. So it was my intention to read a full epistolary novel, and when I saw this middle grade book, I've decided to read it. And I'm very glad that I've read this book because the book actually really reflects the effect of how epistolary novels are constructed. We learn very minor things about our narrator, and then by the end of the book we learn many things about this young boy, and I liked how it was both witty and emotional. And as I came towards the end of the book, I really wanted to give Lee a hug because he was so lovable. So this was quite a successful read for me, and I gave Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly, Cleary an 8 out of 10. Today is the 22nd of January and I finished the book that I was reading for the series cup. Before starting my review, I want to say that I fell on my cheek 2 days ago, and that's why my cheek and my eye is purple. Please be assured that I am feeling much better than I look. And anyway, the book that I finished was A Tangled Web by Judith Michael. This was the second book in the Deception sequel, and I read the first book when I was a teenager. It was the first book that I read, featuring quite spicy sex scenes. And that's why I think it made a mark on me. In the first book, the twins Stephanie and Sabrina made an agreement to act as each other for a week. But this agreement changes their lives forever. And this book starts where the first book finishes. Sabrina Langsford is now living the life of her sister Stephanie Anderson, and she has fallen in love with her sister's husband. Stephanie, who took place of Sabrina, is now presumed to be dead in an explosion in a yacht of a very wealthy but shady man. Sabrina, although mourning her sister, is quite content with her life, because she has a family that she adores very much, as well as a very loving husband. She hears from a friend that a woman who looks exactly like her has been seen in a small town in France. I really did like the beginning and the ending of this book, which were quite engaging and also quite emotional. Although I was fond of both sisters and wanted the best for them, I was much more invested in Sabrina's story. However, in the middle part, even the parts about Sabrina's life dragged on and on. And I thought the book would have been much better if it was 150 pages shorter. But like I said before, I quite enjoyed the story of the sisters and their bond. And I gave A Tangled Web by Judith Michael a 7 out of 10. Today is the 24th of January, and I finished the book that I was reading for the Endless Drama Book Club, hosted by Angelia. In 2025, I did not read any plays, which was a first for me. And that's why I will try to join this club as much as I can throughout this year and most probably following years as well. The play that I finished was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams. This is a story of brothers vying for their dying father's inheritance amid a worldwide of sexuality, untethered in the person Maggie the cat. The play also daringly showcased the burden of sexuality repressed in the agony of her husband, Brick Pollitt. I have previously read The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams, and I thought it was an exceptional play. Although I quite liked the reality of this play, I have to say I was not as impressed by this one as much as The Glass Menagerie. I quite liked the complexity of every character in the play. However, there was something off about the writing style. Though I was listening to the play, it actually took a quite time for me to finish it. Still, I think it is a quite worthwhile play to understand the dynamics and the society of 1950s in the United States, especially the southern regions. That's why I also decided to count this book for Mardi Gras Readathon, which is hosted by Laurie and Kat. So with all of these negatives and positives, I gave Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams a 7 out of 10. Today is the 26th of January, and I DNF'd one book yesterday evening and finished one book today. The book that I DNF'd was Years by Ernaux. This book is a memoir of the French society in the time periods of 1940s, 50s and 60s. Stories and views and photographs from different parts of the society are provided in the book. Though I thought this book had a very significant value in terms of describing the French society in those times. I really could not get into the writing style of the book. Everything felt very, very disconnected in my head. So I've decided not to pressure myself to read a book that I don't enjoy. So I've decided to DNF this book chosen for my in-person book club. And the book that I finished was another non-fiction book, which was a memoir from a top model in 1990s, Desert Flower by Waris Dirie. The book tells the life story of Waris, starting from her very dramatic childhood in Somali, in which she lived in a very poor village and had been a victim of a very tragic tradition, which is female circumcision. And then the story continues with her escaping from her family because she did not want to marry an old man found by her father. She then goes to a big city in Somali, then to London, and then she becomes a top model. But her life changes when she decides to tell her experience with female circumcision, and then becomes the Woman of the Year of 1998. I really did like this autobiography by the author. First of all, she was very, very sincere in her feelings and thoughts about everything, which was sort of like a fresh air considering the too politically correct environment of the celebrities. Of course, what made this book extraordinary was how brutal the tradition of female circumcision is. And I was very, very impressed by the courage and the quiet power that Waris possessed in herself. Overall, I think it's a very powerful, emotional and impressive life story of a woman who has been through a lot, both tragically and also quite positively. And that's why I gave Çiçeği, Desert Flower by Waris Dirie an 8 out of 10. Today is the 27th of January, and I finished listening to the book that I was bud reading with Angelina at Books Do Things to Me, which was the Turkish edition of Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. As the title suggests, the book tells the history of humankind, in which he calls Sapiens, starting from 100 and 1,000 years ago, when the first Homo sapiens were thought to appear in the earth. And the book starts with biological concepts and then goes into social and military history. And the later chapters explores the difference in sapiens through the lens of sociology, psychology, science, capitalism, happiness, and many other chapters. In most of the chapters, the author tries to make connections and conclusions by using quite unknown examples from all around the world. I have previously read the next book in this series, which was Homo Deus. And I thought it was a very interesting read. However, I thought that it was more of a opinion piece instead of a scientific nonfiction book. Although this book, especially in the first chapters, depends much more on the archaeological and scientific findings. Overall, I thought it was like Homo Deus. It is a opinion piece based on some scientific and historical examples. The connections that the author makes are quite successful in terms of writing and engagement to the reader. So this is a quite engaging non-fiction book. And additionally, the Turkish narrator was incredibly good, really enhanced my enjoyment level of the book. Although her narration was clear and had the perfect Turkish pronunciation of almost every word, I cannot help but feel that she also felt cynical in some parts, but it was done in such a subtle way. I thought what a perfect narration it was. Most importantly, it was a great bud read with Angelina. She certainly knows more about non-fiction books and history books more than I do. It was great to message back and forth with her about our thoughts for each of the chapters, and we mostly agreed that it was a very well written and opinion piece. Overall, I gave Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari an 8 out of 10. Today is the 28th of January, and I finished the book that I was reading for Mardi Gras Readathon, which was a book by Marc Levy, originally written in French and translated to Turkish. Birbirimize, Söyleyemediğimiz Onca. The book also has an English edition titled All Those Things We Never Said. In this book, we follow Julia, and days before her wedding, Julia learns that her father has suddenly died, and his funeral will take place on her proposed wedding day. Although Julia was not close to her father and sort of estranged from him, she of course decides to postpone her wedding. Only a couple of days after his funeral, Julia receives a big box, and when she opens the box, she sees that an android of her father is there, and he says that father's conscience has been planted to his mind, and this android has only 6 days before his battery dies, and also wants to express himself much more to his daughter, who is still very angry at her father. I really enjoyed the previous book that I read from Marc Levy, which was The Strange Journey of Alice Pendlebury. And like that book, this book also has a hint of magical realism in it. Although I was not a fan of the two main characters, I thought the relationship between father and daughter were quite realistic. I like the overall theme of this book, which says that The family relationships are quite complex and nobody is blameless in conflicts between the close family members. Love story was decent, but I have to say it also had some cliches. It was not hard to guess what would happen in terms of this love story. But like I said before, it was the relationship between the father and the daughter which made this book much more engaging. So overall, this was a quite decent read for me, and I gave Birbirimize Söyleyemediğimiz Onca by Marc Levy a 7 out of 10. So those were the 6 books that I finished and 1 book that I DNF'd in the second half of January. Please comment down below, have you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, and what do you think of them? If you're a new viewer, first of all, welcome. Please like and subscribe. Hope to see you very soon. Bye. As for Turkish word of the day, I'm going to choose Tangled. Tangled means karma karışık in Turkish, and karma karışık is our Turkish word of the day. Have a good day.